development. So, in conclusion, I just want to say again, this is just a blueprint. This is not a finished product. I don't assume that it will ever be finished, but it's some roadmap for us to start taking and following a path to actually be successful. We need teamwork and cooperation. We need leadership from within the Republican State Committee. I sit on the committee. I've been in those meetings. I have friends there that have been there a long time. We know what works and what doesn't work. And we also need a chairperson with the background, the ability, and the time and energy to put into this. So I thank you all very much for your time. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And thank you.
Before we invite our next candidate to come up, we'd like to allow for up to see how it goes, but we'd like to invite up to about 10 minutes of questions from the floor for Ms. Nassour. So if there are any questions from the floor, please feel very free.
Not so much a question, but I just wanted to make an announcement. Perhaps some people in the room heard it, that Mr. Paul Wayrick passed on today. And he was instrumental in the conservative movement in the United States, as probably most of you know. So I just wanted to make that announcement.
Thank you.
First of all, it was a great presentation. This is more of not a question, but it's my feeling that right now with the financial situation, the economy, the federal government, state governments, and the town, that really is going to be an issue going on in the next election. And you said keep it simple, and I think it's hard to keep that simple because what has been created over the decades is a big shell game where the federal government sends money to the state sends money to the towns, and federal government puts directives on towns, school committees to fund it, to do stuff, but they don't fund it. And I think this economy thing is going to really blow up, and I think that's an area that we have to effectively communicate with people. That being our issue, that we're the people that are going to get it done. Billy Bolger once said he could tax a galloping horse, and I think the governor of New York is now trying to do that. So I think that's a very, very important issue of the future.
Absolutely. Last night I was actually at a rally for the school hike. Talk about, if you talk to your friends and neighbors and you ask them, are you Republican or Democrat, and they say Democrat, and you start talking about common sense issues. How's it going paying your mortgage? How many hours a week are you working? How often do you use the Mass Pike? How, gas. I just filled up my tank today. I was shocked. It was $30. I was paying $90. Fantastic. First of all, Patrick was going to tax that. So it's going to go right back up again. If you talk to people and you ask them what's important to them, I have little kids, $50,000 a year right now to go to college. By the time my kids go to college, forget it. It's going to be the same prices we pay for houses right now. So if you start talking to people and ask them questions like that and start engaging them, I bet they are more conservative than they actually think that they are, and those issues resonate. They're very common sense issues, but people feel with their wallets and their hearts are somewhat attached. If you're out working 12-hour days, Joe the plumber, he was used 1,000 times, but think about it. You're out, you're a tradesman, you're working, you're paying your bills, whatever amount you're making, you're barely surviving, and then the government comes in and says, thank you very much for that, I'm taking that, and I'm going to go give it over here, where they're buying new clothes and new sneakers, and they're living great on your money, but you won't get a single dollar to send your kids to college, and you don't get any financial assistance. And the poor people in Holden that still don't have any power are still without power. And so you have seniors that are in that predicament. But it would never happen in Section 8 housing because the government runs right in to go take care of them. So those are issues that we really need to talk about with our friends and neighbors, and that actually affects people. So thank you.
I think Jill had a question.
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer in that because one of the things always aggravated me for this region is the fact that they don't regionalize, that they keep more into themselves, they don't know how to withdraw, and they perceive a Republican as a wealthy person. And I kind of broke that concept by crossing party lines when I ran for school committee. Because when I would go to different doors and ring the bells, if I let them know I was a Republican, they didn't want to talk to me. When I engaged with them in the concerns that they had for their children, what they need to empower them, how we need to build better schools, how we need to retool our children and our teachers because the bar has been lowered and we're not raising it. And I even got a seat on the PACE board, which is, I'm the only Republican of 35 people on the PACE board, which is all Democrats. And they just think I'm swell and I'm one of them because they have seen, no, seriously, they say to me all the time, I thought you really get it, and you do understand, and you're not affluent, and you don't think that way. But until we break down the barriers of how we are perceived, that we have the same concerns and goals as the Democrat next door, that the cost of housing is up, your money isn't buying more, your buying power isn't going to be good for the next several years, things are tanking, people are going to be out of work, we're all in the same position. And if we can engage people in conversations and make them realize it, we're able to sell ourselves and we're able to build that grassroots stuff and you're able to get a lot of votes and impact people that just realize it's just not a Republican. Look, that Republican thinks like we do. Maybe that person in that seat will help us. And they begin to realize that we do have the same goals. This is a message we have to pound out, and we have not been successful in doing that. We go, I think, in the really wrong direction. Who spent the most money? Who can buy the vote? And you're right. The most corrupt group I have ever seen are the guys on Federal Hill. They reek of it. They reek of it. And they can't get out and they control everything because we're too afraid to open our mouths. So you know what? You get what you deserve. And until we take a stand, this is the problem we're going to deal with.
I do have a question. Katie, you've got a question?
When you recruit finance committee members, what would you ask for? What are going to be their requirements? By the way, if I'm crossing my arms, I'm freezing. My hands are frozen. I'm just looking for a way to warm up. I would set money amounts, dollar amounts that they need to raise, and tell them, to have a seat on this board, because these are not state committee people. These are not us. These are business leaders. And say that you need to raise $50,000. Each of you need to go out to your friends and get commitments of $10,000, $15,000 and have them bring it back in. And that's really, so it's just being a chair of something, that is your commitment, that is what you're doing, and that's how they're going to have to raise money. And they'll have, maybe we make it 25 at the first year and bump it up to 50 the second year, but they're going to have to make an actual commitment.
I see Tim first.
I'm the executive director of the College Republicans at UMass Dartmouth. I know you talked about the YRs. Are you going to do anything to try and bring College Republicans into the community to try and get these people elected?
Absolutely. I had a gentleman from the College Republicans at Hofstra University calling, and he is the chair there, but he lives up here. Yeah, and he lives up here, and he called and he said, we're home in the summer. We're happy to come to Massachusetts. How great is that? And there is I have to say, there is a disconnect, I think, sometimes between the YRs and the CRs, because the YRs think, well, the CRs come and go and they don't really care. But that's not a good reason, because even if you do go chances are you're going to stay around here. And if you don't, then you're going to go someplace else and effectuate a change there. So we need to empower you and bring you out there and say, okay, here, come into the community and say why UMass Dartmouth is great, why you're getting a great education, and why their tax dollars, hard at work, their money, and, you're going to school, and if you're an out-of-state resident or an in-state resident, and show them this is a